Here is an overview of the history of South Dakota. South Dakota's history is one of dramatic contrasts. From the sprawling prairies and sacred mountains of its original indigenous inhabitants, to the conflicts of westward expansion, the agricultural hardships of the Dust Bowl, and the creation of one of America's most iconic monuments. 1. Indigenous peoples and early history. Before European contact, the land was home to numerous indigenous groups. Early inhabitants included Paleo-Indian hunters, followed by the mound builders and later village-dwelling agricultural groups like the Arikara. By the 18th century, the dominant force in the region was the Osidi-Sakowin, 7 council fires, known to outsiders as the Sioux. This confederacy is comprised of 3 main dialect groups: Lakota, Teton, Dakota, Santee, Nakota, Yankton, Yanktoni. Driven from the woodlands of present-day Minnesota, the Lakota and their allies adopted a nomadic, buffalo hunting lifestyle on the Great Plains. The Black Hills, Pahasapa, located in the western part of the state, became a central and sacred part of their spirituality and culture. 2. U.S. acquisition and statehood. The United States acquired the region from France in 1803 as part of the Louisiana Purchase. The Lewis and Clark expedition traveled up the Missouri River through the area in 1804-1806. For decades, the region was primarily traversed by fur traders. In 1861, the U.S. government organized the Dakota Territory, a massive tract of land that included modern-day North and South Dakota, as well as parts of Montana and Wyoming. The Homestead Act of 1862 encouraged settlers to move into the eastern part of the territory, sparking a Dakota boom and establishing towns like Yankton, the first capital, and Sioux Falls. This influx of settlers led to increased conflict with the Sioux. After decades of division and political maneuvering, the Dakota Territory was split in 2. On November 2, 1889, President Benjamin Harrison signed the papers admitting South Dakota and North Dakota to the Union as the 39th and 40th states. 3. Gold, conflict, and the Wounded Knee Massacre. While the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868 had guaranteed the Lakota ownership of the Black Hills, everything changed in 1874. A military expedition led by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer confirmed rumors of gold in the region. This sparked the Black Hills Gold Rush, 1874-1877, and thousands of miners illegally flooded the sacred lands, founding rowdy boomtowns like Deadwood and Lead, home to the massive Homestake Mine. Figures like Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane would become legends of this era. The U.S. government's violation of the treaty led directly to the Great Sioux War of 1876, also called the Black Hills War. This war included the famous Battle of the Little Bighorn in neighboring Montana, where Lakota and Cheyenne warriors, led by figures like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, defeated Custer's 7th Cavalry. Despite this victory, the indigenous forces were eventually defeated and forced onto smaller reservations. The conflict and suffering culminated on December 29, 1890, when the U.S. 7th Cavalry killed an estimated 150-300 Lakota men, women, and children at Wounded Knee Creek on the Pine Ridge Reservation. This event is considered the end of the major armed conflicts between the U.S. and the Plains indigenous peoples. For the 20th century, drought and carved mountains. South Dakota's economy was almost entirely based on agriculture. This dependence proved disastrous in the 1930s, when the state was hit by 2 simultaneous catastrophes: the Great Depression. The 1929 stock market crash caused crop prices to collapse, bankrupting countless farmers. The Dust Bowl, a severe decade-long drought, turned much of the prairie into a wasteland. Massive dust storms, known as black blizzards, buried farms and homes, and a grasshopper plague consumed what little vegetation was left. South Dakota was one of the hardest-hit states, losing over 7% of its population as families fled. The Federal New Deal programs were a lifeline. The Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and Works Progress Administration, WPA, built dams, bridges, and parks, like Dinosaur Park in Rapid City, and provided work for thousands. During this same period, the state embarked on a project to attract tourism. State historian Doane Robinson conceived of a massive sculpture in the Black Hills. He hired sculptor Gutzon Borglum to lead the project. From 1927 to 1941, Borglum and his team of 400 workers carved the 60-foot faces of 4 presidents, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln, into Mount Rushmore. Funded largely by the federal government, the memorial, built on land the Sioux still contest, became a national icon and the cornerstone of the state's tourism industry. Follow for more.